Okay, so I'm gonna talk about Green Lantern, and I know the movie has gotten several negative reviews, and I hate to say that I sort of agree with what people are saying. I mean, Green Lantern as a movie, the story is what really drags this movie down. I mean, like, action wise and special effects wise, yeah, I mean, it was a little distracting, but really for me, the main drop point was the story. And it's mainly because the story, it brought nothing new to the table. I mean, like, I know this is supposed to be an origin story of Hal Jordan and his rise to becoming the Green Lantern, but I don't know, the story just did not fall into place. I mean, this story felt like if they combined Spider-Man and Batman Begins into one movie, but used it for the Green Lantern. And here, I'm gonna I'm gonna break this down piece by bit, but piece by piece. Now, the story is how the main villain is Parallax. So he's what was he? He was a former, I think, like, part of member of the council who broke free to harness the power of fear, because there's two major sources of power in this world: power of will and power of fear. He chose to go to the power of fear, and eventually became, Parallax, which is like, he's like this giant blackish cloud blob. And so he breaks free from his prison, and he attacks, like, worlds, and he attacks the person who imprisoned him, who gets fatally wounded. And this guy goes to Earth, and he tells the Ring to search for a person, which happens to be our main character. Now, our main character is Hal Jordan, and he starts out the film as a very arrogant, but talented pilot who, he manages to outthink these two very special, like, planes that were designed by the military to be flawless. And and right off, like, the beginning actually does a good job to at describing the two major, like, some major points about the Hal Jordan's character, like the fact that he can outsmart, like, these flawless planes and win. Um, it's setting up for the fact that they're going on. There's gonna be, like, there's a theme in the movie where it's like the Ring chose it for a reason, but it's like the movie doesn't. The main characters are like, why did you choose you? Because you're irresponsible. You're afraid. But when you see that scene, it's like it's so obvious that the Ring chose him because he, what's the word? It's human ingenuity. Like, it's that theme where it's like his weakness, his human nature, is what gives him strength, and is why the reason the Ring chose him. And also, what the scene shows is, it showed when he looked at a picture of his dad. He goes into his flashback sequence where his dad dies in a plane crash, and he shows fear. And that's why I bring up Batman Begins, because they're going on a theme where the main character is having to go through, like, he has to deal with fear, and he's afraid of the bad guys, and it shows him trying to overcome his fear. And, I actually like the beginning, but near the middle it falls apart, and it really falls apart because the story is very cliched, and there are just some parts in the movie that just kind of destroyed some, like, what the beginning tried to establish. Like, the movie tried to establish, what was it, Blake Lively, the main girl character. They tried to establish her this strong, like, female counterpart to Hal Jordan, but then all of a sudden in the middle, her character totally drops into just like his love interest. Like, immediately drops from being this, like, tough opposite. And also, they try to bring in this subplot about the bio teacher who becomes the secondary main villain. but his subplot is that he's supposed to be the opposite of Hal Jordan, like he's how they're both like just regular humans who come to happen to come on these powers. But they're kind of doing this thing where it's like he's never been perfect, and Ryan Reynolds has always been perfect. So he has his power. So he's trying to impress. He's trying to impress the girls. He's trying to outdo everything Hal Jordan does. But you don't really take him seriously as a villain because when you look at the two, it's like it's a nerd versus Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I know I'm not really making sense, but the villain is not more threatening than the good guy. They're trying to make Hal Jordan look like he's an underdog. I mean, you can tell because there's a scene where Ryan Reynolds is like he's trying to save Blake Lively, so he takes off his ring. He's like, "I'm just like you," but it's like he takes off his ring. He's like, "I'm Ryan Reynolds, me, the guy with like the abs and the muscles and the good looks, and you're a nerd. I'm just like you." So that was a problem for me because I could not accept him as an underdog, and they really tried to press him as an underdog, but I don't know, it just did not work. And also, there's also some other parts in the movie, like some of the lines were a little too cliche. I mean, some cliched lines I liked because some of them were making fun of like traditional um, superhero elements. Like there's a scene where he's on the balcony with Blake Lively with the mask and all that, and he's talking in a deep voice, like he's trying to impress her, and the girl is like she at first, you know how like Superman, like when he takes off his glasses, Lois Lane can't recognize him. He's trying to do that, but at least in this movie they acknowledge the fact that they could still recognize him. So uh, that was one of the cliche lines that worked. But everything else, you have to watch the movie to understand what I'm saying. That the cliched lines are just it really bothered me. And what else about this movie I can talk about? I think I ragged on it a little bit. I mean, there are some good bits. I mean, like the action. I said the action scenes were pretty good, and the acting, aside from some spots, the acting was pretty solid. I mean, like Ryan Reynolds is actually pretty good in his role, even though he's not who I would pick to be the underdog. He still manages to play the role good. And also the guy who played the villain was the bio teacher. He did pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's where the story that just did not manage to stick out. Like it didn't stick out, and also it was predictable. And also it had probably the stupidest like ending. Like they built up Parallax. They actually did a good job building up Parallax as this unstoppable villain who I mean, this is the only time in the movie where Ryan Reynolds is actually like an underdog, because let's face it, he's a human going up against like a giant black cloud. So so that was the one part where he did look like an underdog. But the movie, how the battle ends is it shows Ryan Reynolds going to the sun, and and the gravity of the sun pulls both of them in, and the ending is Ryan Reynolds is saved by the other members of the Green Lantern before he gets caught in, but Parallax is like burned to death because it's the freaking sun. And I'm just going like, first of all, physics wise, Ryan Reynolds should have been burnt like where he was flying. Second, it took him. All they had to do was toss him in the sun to destroy him. Like, if it was really this easy, why didn't they think of it in the first place? I mean, they resorted to making a ring of fear before they thought of tossing him in the sun. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they weren't powerful enough. But I mean, Ryan Reynolds did it on his own. And the movie didn't really establish him as being more powerful than the other Green Lanterns. I mean, in this movie, he was just a regular average Joe Green Lantern. So that was another thing. Now that I mention it, how come Parallax, like, he could defeat a whole platoon of Green Lanterns, but one Green Lantern and a rookie manages to defeat him? Like, I know he's supposed to be the, like, he's the hero of the comics, but they don't really establish him as being more special than the other Lanterns. And I think that's all I have to really say about Green Lantern, except the one other thing I could say is I was a little mad that they didn't turn Sinestro bad. I mean, I know there's an end credit scene, post end credit scene where Sinestro puts on the ring of fear and he's like, oh, the power, and he's gonna turn in the next movie. But it was kind of weird seeing him as the good guy. I mean, I never really read the comics, but when I did, he was the bad guy. So like, it kind of felt like if the Joker and the Batman were like getting along. I mean, it was kind of cool. It was not really. It was kind of weird. So that's my thoughts on Green Lantern. Not totally terrible, but it was not a very good movie. But I guess for what it is, I mean, it's a summer blockbuster movie. You really just go in there to see action and stuff blow up. So I guess it did that part well. So Green Lantern, maybe a C grade. So I want to hear your thoughts. And that's all for me right now.